And welcome back to the Cape Town Fashion Council's COVID Reboot series. I'm your host, Colin Donsko. On today's show, Fashion Creative Development Strategist and media personality Morwick Pietersen joins us. Morwick, good afternoon and welcome.
Good afternoon, Colin. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be able to sit down with you and engage in stimulating conversation. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Morwick. We're really privileged to have you on the show. I know you're one of those many in the country where it's very hard to track down because you're always doing incredible work and incredible stuff. So first and foremost, thank you for taking the time out. Now, on this series, Morwick, we've identified 20 industry leaders and experts to help the fashion economy in South Africa move forward. So we're talking about the business of fashion 2020 and beyond. We'd love to zoom in on your insight, your expertise, what you're seeing in the industry and the advice that you give to the local fashion economy. Morwick, you've launched brands, you've built brands. We've followed your incredible journey, not only in business, but also in the media. And at this point, businesses are either going to survive or they're going to die. Let's talk about strategy. How do SME businesses or business owners restructure their businesses to prepare for the future?
Yeah. I think, Colin, it's really imperative that, we do take a step back and we just evaluate in terms of where are we, and where the world is at. And right now, I do believe that this whole fourth industrial revolution has really kicked in full force, and I mean, everything right now is done via online platforms. I mean, we're having this conversation right now. I'm sitting in Johannesburg and you sitting in Cape Town, but we're still able to engage, and do what we do. So I think it's really everyone has to move to where we are right now, and that is we all have to become more technological savvy in terms of how do we take traditional ways or customs of us doing stuff, and then how do you take that same product and launch it onto an online platform, because nowadays it's just by a click of a button on our mobile devices, and then you are connected. So it's really how you have to now be more and more in the faces of your clientele and of your consumer, and which better way is really just to take the brand and take it on an online. I think everyone right now is doing online on online platforms. 100%. So I think the best way for a brand to survive is by taking that business onto an online platform and running it, and just really researching more in terms of how are people really operating on this whole online platform, and how do you turn your business into an online business.
100%. You mentioned we've got to learn how to quite a few times in that last comment. Let's talk about how to, but let's discuss strategy. So what are some of the simple strategies that SME owners can implement in their businesses at this point? And so many of us are saying, digital's the way to go, and you've got to be online and you've got to be more present. And you mentioned in your faces, and that is all good, but often it's very intimidating to, creatives often don't really understand the business fundamentals of being in this space. So let's break this down and make it simple. What is some of the simple strategies that you advise SME owners implement?
Yeah. So again, I start with evaluate your business, right? Evaluate your business and really understand where you are right now, because I mean, different strategies, even in terms of your clientele, has to change. So for me, it's really sitting down and understanding where your business is, what kind of value your business has, and just what kind of impact your business offers, in terms of us being in this kind of pandemic. Because I think even after September, they say the peak is ending, end of September, but I think we're still not going to be allowed to gather and have that old traditional ways. So it's really sitting down and understanding what I first need to do is I need to now engage with my client on an online online presence, because sometimes even with our clientele, I think we have to teach them, that, hey, listen, I know you're used to this, but the exact same thing that I'm doing, you can get it online, so we avoiding this whole, we implementing the social distancing, because I think it's really going to run for for a few more months, maybe a year or two. That's what predictions are saying. So for me, it's really understand where your business is, and how can you then take your business forward? Which means it's about engaging with your clientele and bringing your clientele a bit closer to home. It's like an ongoing cause. Like, you have to teach everyone new things. I think also introduce new services. Introduce new services to what you normally do. Like yeah, like just align and what you used to do, and then just add something different, something that's going to keep your audience engaged and with you, and for them not to get bored. So it's really about consumer engagement. Like, how do we really engage with our consumer? How are we constantly teaching our consumer? So I think for me, that's the kind of strategies I would look into. That's the kind of strategies that I'm doing. Where is my client? What is my client doing? So how can I also get onto a level where I personally also am able to satisfy my client? And be able to borderline and say, okay, we are now able to both service each other's needs.
And re-educating, I guess, the audience or the consumer on how to now do business with us. That's our responsibility. So thank you for pointing that out. I think that's very profound. Let's zoom in on the future of business in South Africa. Where do you see us heading? And most importantly, how can we revive the fashion economy?
Yeah. So we're in a box, right? So I think it's about, we have to become innovative in this box. So yes, sometimes it's about, we don't really have to fight the system or fight, to think outside of the box, but we're in this box already. So for me, it's about thinking innovatively in this box. Again, it's about extending your services. I think the future of where we're going to as a business, it's really online. I think in April, I launched Designers Hour, which is a platform where we sell garments live on television, and you really get to engage with the design. Because I think it's so imperative that people start buying into our local stories. Because branding is all about buying into. It's all about buying into the product, into the brand. So I mean, it's a contactless kind of show. Where the designer is able to sell 5 garments, directly. They're engaging with a new audience. They're speaking to a new audience. They're just broadening their business. So again, it's about really using our online platforms. Like, take your brother, take your sister, take your cousin, put on an outfit, and switch on to Facebook Live, go on to Instagram Live, and just start selling and taking orders. It's again like everything. The 4th industrial revolution, it's here to stay.
Absolutely.
It's kicked in. And how we know things like the old traditional ways, in terms of having to be in studio, in terms of having to be in big corporate buildings, all of that is coming to a halt. Where it's just like, what, we now discovering that, technology is so advanced. Technology allows 2 oceans to come together, and it's live. So I think it's really about taking your business online, but also understanding, like, how this whole online platform works, because online is really fast. People see it immediately, they want it. So you have to know, if you're a designer and you are selling garments, like you need to understand like your turnaround times, like how fast can you ship whatever, like what is the turnaround, what is your return policies, because everything is happening really quick and really fast. So you must be able to like dive in and do proper research with whichever platform you're going to be using in terms of now extending your brand to the online onto an online platform.
I want to zoom in on the platform that you've built a bit more, because what we've been saying over the past few weeks with the series is that now more than ever, it's important for the stakeholders to identify innovative new platforms that they can leverage off. And I think what you've done with Designers Hour is built one of those platforms. Let's talk about the importance, especially now, for designers to go out and look for these platforms and also to collaborate and piggyback off these platforms.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you look at Designers Hour, it's really a platform for the designer. We're saying we're no longer preaching, and pardon me, we're no longer saying support local fashion. We're saying, hey, listen, buy local fashion. You get what I'm saying? Because yeah, I can be like, my friend is a designer, Colin is a designer. I support Colin. I really love Colin's collections, Colin's fabric. But for me, it's really about buy. We really have to start putting our money where our mouth is, and when you celebrate an African designer, celebrate that designer by putting your money to the brand.
Yes.
So that's,
because man is calling it for what it is right now, but that is support, paying or buying a product, and I love that you being that honest.
Yeah, and not always wanting free stuff, because I feel sometimes the world is, I might come across as being very presumptuous right now, but I think like we have to put that to a stop, where we're always expecting like free things from designers, or just from the industry. We're always expecting like a favor, we're always expecting because we're friends, so I expect you to not charge me as much as, there's no friendship, there's no family when it comes to business. So it's really, especially in these times, because even with your pricing has to be so competitive, because everyone is also, you must understand, Colin, I think during these times, that everyone is holding on to their money.
Yes.
And people are very skeptical, and, people think twice, and when it comes to what they're investing and what they buy. So they really want to then buy into something that is completely unique and completely different, to be like, okay, yeah, I can take that 2,000, because designer clothing is not cheap. It's a designer. If you go into Louis Vuitton or Versace, Gucci, like, you're not going to go in there and like negotiate prices and be like, this is so expensive. Like, if you don't like their prices, then you leave. So that's what I always encourage designers or anyone in business. If I'm worth 2,500 runs an hour, Colin, and you do not want to pay me, or you think I'm too expensive, it's okay. Like, different strokes for different folk. But we have to stay true to really valuing your brand and yourself as you see yourself as a brand all the time, because when you're a business, you automatically become this brand.
Absolutely.
So it's really now you have to really stay true, to who you are as a brand and as a business, because I mean, the online world is crazy fast. The online world is everyone is doing 10 times, so you must definitely be unique in your approach.
Absolutely.
You must bring something different that people's gonna resonate with and be like, oh yeah, that makes a whole lot of sense, and that's why I'm going to buy into your brand, or I'm going to buy into. So yeah, it's just how we have to become really innovative in terms of just how we now extend ourselves to the online world. Because remember, the online world is no longer just South Africa. Like, anyone can see. That's the beauty, of technology, is that everyone is able to connect with you. So your homework does become just a bit more intense. Like how do you sell to someone who's sitting in New York City, but who really loves your particular brand? Like, so you need to find out all that shipping information, taxes, So
Mm.
there's a whole lot of research, but it's really just advancing what we know already. Because I mean, we do know technology. We do know like the different e-commerce platforms. But now it's just becoming direct, and that's what
Absolutely.
design is our does. It's direct. The attention is on you. So you must be able to sell your own brand, to speak
Uh-huh.
about your own
Uh-huh.
brand.
Wow, that's
You must eat, drink, sleep, everything your brand. Yeah.
and that's no doubt what we need in the country. We've been zooming, and even with the series, with the COVID reboot series, is zooming in on those things that we need to do better in order to move forward. And these are some of the struggles that fashion business owners they face, or they often not the best at articulating their brands. And so thank you for sharing
Mhm.
that. Now, I know that you're known for your work in two different areas. One is in the business development space and one is in the media space. But let's first zoom in on the business development. What are some of the challenges that designers are facing during this time, and how do they overcome, or how do you advise that they overcome these challenges?
Data is really expensive, and it's not like it's still a luxury
Yeah.
in Africa. Not yes, I mean it is picking up where every home has like Wi-Fi, but I mean Wi-Fi is most of the time just at home at different. But like I think what really becomes a challenge is also like now data. So you should always have a lot of data, because if your business has now become an online business, everything is happening online and everything requires the internet.
Mm-hmm.
So you also have to understand in terms of just like building a budget, including a budget of data, that says, okay, yes, I'm able to buy that 1 gig, and this 1 gig can like last me for X amount of time,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And then I think really just going deeper into research, because
Mm-hmm.
you're now going to have to also align yourself with a good courier company, and you also need to understand, how does a courier company work? Do you pay them upfront? But a lot of times, um, your client or your prospect client can actually pay for, in fact, not actually should be paying for your courier
For the career
service,
service.
you
Mm-hmm.
know, because people are always asking, but now how am I going to get the garments to the client? And I'm like, courier. That's why courier is there. So I
Uh-huh.
think that could be challenging, like people not understanding how the whole courier service works. And then also internet could be a problem, but because it now has to become this, it has to be constant engagement.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be that continuous engagement with your clientele. So whenever there's something new that's coming up, you have to announce it 3 weeks ahead. Like, hey,
Mm.
listen, I'm launching this new hat. So you have to keep on like planting stuff, because everyone is busy right now. And everyone is faced with, we trying to make a living. I think that's where
Absolutely.
everyone is. Like,
Yeah.
we're trying to make a living. Some people got laid off. Some people might still be losing their jobs. The economy is not that stable right now, you know? So for me, it's really understanding that, it's really just researching, where am I? What can I do? And let me also
Mm.
not overextend myself with responsibilities that I cannot do,
Mm-hmm.
you know? So I think a lot of people at times extend themselves or commit themselves to things that they cannot do, and then you end up disappointing your client. And I think that's the worst thing, because,
Mm-hmm.
word of mouth, one client says, you know what, I had the worst experience. Like once someone says they had a really bad experience with you, it like spread like wildfire,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
you know?
Absolutely.
So
Yeah.
yeah, that's my thoughts.
Oh, that's incredible. Another area that you're known for is in the media space. Let's talk quickly about the role of the media in assisting with this facilitation process of of reboosting the fashion economy, because I do feel that media plays a very good or very big role in not only promoting local businesses, but supporting local fashion designers in that way. So let's quickly talk about the role of the media in 2020 and beyond.
I think the role of the media, Colin, should ensure that we are telling authentic narratives.
Hmm.
That we're really speaking and showcasing authentic African um, 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 concepts.
Yeah.
And we really, I mean, I think Makosa is really doing so well because he's also just recently, I think he launched Makosa in Cape Town at Waterfront, you
Hmm.
know, and I mean, I think that's like the Diamond Walk,
Hmm.
at the waterfront, so instead of, promoting and speaking about um, Louis Vuitton or, like Gucci, let's speak more about Makosa. I'm just using that as an example.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Let's use Makosa as a reference. Let's support, let's create feet
Hmm.
to his store. Let's speak just constantly about local. And I think that's what the media has to do right now. Like attention has to be skewed to local production.
Absolutely.
What
Yeah.
is it that locals need? Like the attention should constant, like they're doing now with the farming stuff that you see on television, like, youth that's in farming and in different stuff. Like, fashion is one of the biggest
Yeah.
contributors to the GDP. It still
Absolutely.
remains. A few years ago, it was like 14%. That's billions of rands. So I think like the media constantly has to speak about, you know, um, let's not support local, but let's now buy into local.
Hmm. And
Because it's only once we start buying, do a particular an independent brand or a specialist designer is able to start building, a loyal clientele that's going to build their the brand or
their
the
brand.
product. So
Absolutely.
I think it's
Absolutely.
really about, we have to speak about, the narrative has to be local. We have to support local, everything local, and not support, but buy.
Absolutely. Thank you for pointing that out, because again, we do feel that the media largely has a big responsibility in promoting South African or local product by telling stories. And again, we've got to tell these stories in a very different way. But let's talk about the future of fashion in South Africa. What are your predictions?
I was watching also in South Africa, South African Menswear Week, went on to being the first digital
Digital,
platform.
yes.
And it was like, wow, because I enjoyed like sitting on my bed and actually watching the show. Normally we sitting front row, we at the venue, but I think it was different.
Yeah.
To be able to sit from home and just looking at the emerging designers and um, 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 the authenticness of their narrative and the story that they're telling. It's really improving because we really lacked, and we really had a lack on narrative. Really speaking like true narrative and not resentment on our narrative.
Fashion business owners currently sitting in a position where they feel that they can't survive, they're ready to close shop. What is the advice you give? But I want us to put this in steps. So your advice in the, what are the first three steps that these designers can take to not close shop?
Yeah. So it's really, again, Colin, I think it's really understanding just where you are, like holistically, where you are as a business.
Yeah.
I think that is one of the first things that you need to ask yourself in terms of, just where you are as a business, right? And then it's really as we said in the beginning, planning. Having a strategy is really constantly planning,
Mm-hmm.
right? So it's, again, you need to sit down, you need to put a plan. Like hopefully you're supposed to have plan B and C in place. And really just now is, how do I implement plan B or plan C? Plan B and plan C must always be there. When you start with your initial concept, you must have backup. You must know more or less in the different seasons, like where do you want to see your brand go? So we now understand that, doing traditional and how we used to do things, it's just no longer going to work.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's no longer going to work. So now you need to tell yourself, or the only place that you really can take and business to, that's not going to cost you rent. So it's not, you don't have to think about, oh gosh, I need to pay my retail store, or I need to pay this one, I need to pay that one. So it's really going to be cutting down on a lot of cost. So it is straight from the designer, or straight from me to you. I think that's the beauty of creating an online platform. And the thing is, you don't even have to like create a website. For example, like Instagram Live is that's where things is. It's popping. Instagram Live, Facebook Live. Once you go live, you are engaged with the whole world. So, but it's also like leading up to that. Like, what am I doing leading up to that? So hence I'm saying previously, you constantly need to engage with your clientele, with the consumer, saying, okay, 3 days from now, I'm going to have a live installation, from at home or wherever, and you have an opportunity to buy. So you really start gearing up, I'm hyping up your clientele for them to get ready. You're launching something new, so you don't just go live. A lot of people think, oh, you just go live. Okay, I'm live, but no, you have to plan. So for me, it's really we have to give it more concentration and more focus in terms of really understanding e-commerce. And when I now speak about e-commerce, I'm not speaking just about like a website and online, no, but really using your social media platforms, which is for free. People are engaging in WhatsApp, people are doing business on WhatsApp, people are doing business on Facebook, people are doing business on Instagram, people are doing business on Twitter. It's really just how hungry you are. And if you really want to get yourself out there, we are, especially now with the lockdown, people are constantly engaging and they're on their online platforms. So at least you're going to pick up 10 or 20 new clients. So for me, it's let's really look and understand what e-commerce now means within our new now, and you just work it in there. You just really work it in there. So it's about doing your research. It's now about implementing your plan B or your plan C. And if you don't have plan B or C, now you have to create. So again, you have to sit down and ask yourself, do I want to go bigger or do I want to go smaller? Because going online means you are speaking to a bigger audience. Your audience is broad. Your audience is not just in South Africa. It's not just in Africa. So you need to look beyond packaging. How do you package for international? So it's a lot of rebranding, or not rebranding, but rather redeveloping, your brand.
Absolutely. I want to conclude with this. You mentioned in one of your first comments that we've got to be innovative while we're in the box. I think a lot of our focus is, what do we do when we've come out of the crisis? But I think our thinking and our strategies and our strategizing should take place now while we're in the box. I think that was very profound that you said earlier. So I want to conclude with this. Your one final word of advice to the fashion SMME sector here in South Africa. What is that golden piece of advice?
The golden piece of advice that I want to leave everyone with is continue being authentic. Stay authentic, stay true to your brand, to yourself, to your worth, and to your value.
This 21st century storytelling has proven to be the most powerful marketing tool in the digital age. Now, it is fashion creative development strategist and media personality Morwick Pietersen sharing his insight, his advice, and his business expertise. Again, our focus is to move the fashion economy in South Africa forward. Now, for more of these inspirational episodes brought to you by the Cape Town Fashion Council, hop on over to www.ctfcdigital.co.za. Mr. Morwick Pietersen, thank you so much.